What up? I'm in domain 7 and I'm feeling pretty good. Feeling pretty good about where I'm at right now. I still got about a month left before the test comes. Test is on April 27th. So now it's a little bit over a month away and I've been getting better at my test scores. So that's giving me a little bit more confidence. I took some of the Wiley tests the other day and I got like 9 out of 20 wrong. 11 for 20 is not bad though. 11 for 20 is not bad. But I don't even know what chapter it was, but there was a couple of questions that I got wrong that I knew I should have answered differently. So that keeps happening, but I'm just gonna keep going through it. I'm not really worried at this point. Maybe when I get closer, I'll be worried, but doing domain 7 now of the videos, and they were discussing change management, and change management is a very important part of not only security, but if you're managing any types of devices or services, change management is important, especially if you work for a bigger company. There's other people involved and other things that these systems that you manage rely on. So it's important. Change management is definitely important. And I didn't know anything about change management, even after being in IT for a number of years. I didn't know anything about change management because that's more like a mid-sized to large business. Like when you're dealing with SMBs, like small businesses, or some mid-sized businesses, but the larger businesses, I know for a fact, have change management. But when you're working with small, like when I was working as a network engineer, we knew that when big changes were happening, there would be a project manager involved and everyone would be notified, but there wasn't a change management process where you sat down with a committee or board or people that, were involved either in the process or externally involved, meaning like the systems affected them. We didn't really have that. So it was like the wild, wild west, bro. I was making changes like middle of the day. Just wild. And when you do things like that, it's not good for a number of reasons. Obviously, I'm a little bit older, I understand that now, but if you make a change and it affects systems or anything else, and I was dealing with networks, right? So if I made a change in the middle of the day, I could take down a network and be like, whoops, I ain't, you know what I'm saying? There's no change management process. So if something goes down, and I know I'm a little bit all over the place right now, but if something goes down, and when you have a change management process, you could look back and be like, oh, this change was going on at this time. And this was the person doing the change. So let's reach out to them. It cuts down the amount of time that you have when troubleshooting or when you're trying to find out who's responsible for this particular thing, like all these alarms going off. And when you don't have change management, you don't have that. And also too, the bigger thing is that things are documented when you do change management process. So when you insert a change management request, you're putting in, this is the change I'm gonna make, this is why I'm gonna make the change, this is how it's affected. You got to justify it. You got to be like, all right, if I got to back out, this is what I'm going to do. Now that change exists somewhere. So if the next person, let's say you out, and a large part of securing your environment also, in addition to that, is job rotations and mandatory vacations and stuff like that. That's also a part of the test. So when you're on vacation or when you're away and somebody else has to perform that particular change, you can look to the change management process that was previously done and say, all right, this is what I have to do. This is what I have to check. So somebody else can pick up and do it. When you're doing things willy-nilly, there's nobody that's if somebody else got to make a change or they got to fix what it is that you broke, Now they got to start from scratch. And as an engineer, that's a little bit frustrating. So I should have known better, but I didn't. But that's past. So let the next person deal with that. That's a foul way to be. But yeah, let the next person. So that's the importance of change management. And companies have different processes. You meet with the change board, or you just document the process, and you get approved or denied. There's a lot of stakeholders who got to get involved in stuff like that. It requires approval. It requires a change window, and that's another reason why I ain't want to do networking no more, because most of the change windows were after hours, bro. Like, you gotta wait till Friday at midnight to make a change, especially if you got offices overseas and the change is gonna affect them. So it was a little bit difficult, but with that, from that aspect, like, you got to be up late nights, you got to do weekends, you got to do check-in afterwards. Bro, I remember like making changes in the middle of the night and then having to wake up, early the next morning to go into the office, or, to do follow-up, or just being on calls overnight, the whole night, because we couldn't get something to work. That's what the network engineer is like. That's what being a network engineer is like. Anyway, I wanted to talk quickly about, because somebody asked me, they was like, yo, how do you got so much going on, how are you finding time to study? And that was a good question. That's a great question. And I wonder myself, and I'm tired all the time. I'm angry all the time. So, there's that. But I have the regular day job, which I'm taking the CISSP or the CISSP so that I can improve so I can add value to the company. So I could be like, I've already learned so much and implemented a few things that I've learned and applied it, not implemented, but applied it to my role. So that's the whole point of doing the CISSP, is so that I could be better at my current role and add more value to my job function. You feel me? So I also run a small business, hammer and nails, grooming shop for guys in Ridgewood, New Jersey. Shameless plug again. And also I'm a comedian. So I go perform across the country, opening for my boy Kev Herrera. And I also have a podcast, and I also do social media shit. So yeah, I got a lot of shit going on, but it's got to be done, right? And there's going to be some shit that falters. So a good example was yesterday. Not only did I have to show up for work, had several meetings, but also I was at the shop helping to clean up Greek customers. We had a meeting with corporate, and they came in and they wanted to check out the shop and see how we function and all that. So I was able to do that. And then I had to go and do the pod. And that's an hour drive, 2.5, 3 hour pod, 45-minute drive back home. So that was my day yesterday. I woke up early, and I'll study by getting on the treadmill and watching videos or reading. The next thing I do is anytime I have a break, like some downtime, if I'm in the bathroom dropping the deuce, I'll get on the phone and I'll take some tests. Randomly throughout the day, I'll be like, all right, let me hit this 10 question test. Let me hit this 25 question test. So that I'm constantly thinking about this shit. After dinner, I'll walk for like 10 minutes on a treadmill, and I'll be watching some videos. So I can fit in. I originally said I was going to do 90 minutes a day for 90 days, but I've cut that down to like 35, 45 minutes a day, doing like maybe the morning I'll do 20 minutes, 25 minutes. The night I'll do 10 to 15 minutes. And then during the day, I'll be either reading or just taking the test. So it's not as intense as it was previously when I was trying to, like in maybe about a month ago when I was trying to cram all these videos. So that's why I've kind of been a little bit more lax on the time, because really it's just going over stuff that I've already either read or watched and then doing the test. That's the biggest thing, is testing. So I'm going to continue to test. So to answer the question, I appreciate the question. Somebody dropped it in my DMs on IG. Follow me, Lee Valentin, on IG. And yeah, I appreciate the question. So that's how I manage to do all the things that I'm doing. So, and yesterday was a perfect example. Had so many things going on. This week I'm traveling to St. Louis. We got one show out in St. Louis, so we gonna fly there Saturday, fly back Sunday. And then, while I'm on the flight, I'm gonna, be on my phone doing the tests. I'm gonna be on my iPad doing some reading, maybe watching some videos. So there will be time to study. But everybody has something going on, man. You just got to make the time if there's something that you really want. And I don't really want it. I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. I don't really want it, but the problem is that I already paid the $750.
$750.
Yeah, I better pass, yo. Now look at me putting pressure. I'm gonna go study, man. I'm gonna eat and I'm gonna study. I appreciate you watching, man. Peace.